Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to bring you the most potent insights from truly transformative works. Have you ever felt that nagging pressure, like you're constantly hassled, juggling responsibilities, maybe struggling with your children's behavior, or perhaps your marriage just feels, well, stagnant? You've tried all sorts of solutions, new time management systems, positive thinking techniques, and yet, why does that feeling of struggle persist? Why do those quick fixes never seem to stick?
It's a question that echoes for so many of us, isn't it? We pour our energy into fixing the symptoms, but often feel like we're just applying temporary bandages to much deeper chronic issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's precisely what we're tackling today. We're embarking on a deep dive into Stephen R. Covey's timeless classic, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We're going to unravel its core philosophy, explore each of the 7 powerful habits, and then bring it all together to understand its ultimate conclusion.
Sounds good.
Our mission is to extract the foundational nuggets of knowledge so you can truly grasp why lasting effectiveness comes from the inside out, why those superficial social band-aids inevitably fail, and how embracing a life centered on timeless principles can lead to enduring success and genuine happiness for you.
It's a journey into personal and interpersonal change, but not one that promises instant results. Instead, it offers a profound, principle-centered path to genuine transformation. It really does.
Okay, let's unpack this. Covey himself opens the book with a deeply personal struggle, one many parents can relate to.
Yeah.
His youngest son's performance on the baseball field.
Oh, yeah, I remember this part.
Covey and his wife, Sandra, were consumed with a desire to help him. They tried everything the modern positive mental attitude movement suggested, psyching him up, giving him pointers, offering endless reinforcement.
Standard stuff, right?
Exactly. But despite their best efforts, their son would still cry, insist he'd never be any good, and even declare he hated baseball. It left them deeply worried about his self-esteem.
What's truly insightful here is that their well-intentioned attempts, as Covey later realized, were rooted in a common but ultimately flawed approach. They focused on external fixes, trying to motivate him, change his behavior, or even control how others reacted to him.
Right. Fix the outside.
Yeah, but none of it addressed the underlying issue, which, as they would soon discover, lay not with their son, but with their own perspective, their own paradigm, really.
And this personal struggle led Covey to a monumental piece of research. He delved into 200 years of American success literature, reading and analyzing hundreds of books, articles, and essays on self-improvement. What he uncovered was a startling pattern.
That pattern revealed a critical distinction: the character ethic versus the personality ethic. For roughly the first 150 years of American history, success literature overwhelmingly emphasized the character ethic. This meant building success on foundational principles like integrity, humility, fidelity, temperance, courage, justice, patience, industry, simplicity, modesty, and the golden rule. You know, the deep stuff.
Like Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, right? That's a classic example he uses.
Exactly. It's the story of a man striving to deeply integrate these timeless principles into his very nature, his character.
So the character ethic taught that true success and enduring happiness stemmed from living in harmony with these fundamental, unchanging principles. It was about being something intrinsically, who you are inside.
Precisely. But then Covey observed a dramatic shift, particularly in the last 50 years or so of this literature. This is what he termed the personality ethic.
The personality ethic.
He described it as superficial, preoccupied with social image consciousness, techniques, and quick fixes, with social band-aids and aspirin. It promised instant solutions to acute problems, but often left the deeper, chronic issues untouched, allowing them to resurface again and again.
That resonates so much with what we see promoted today, the idea of instant results, a surface-level charm, or a power look to manipulate situations, that kind of thing.
Indeed. Covey even highlighted how some of this personality-focused literature encouraged manipulative tactics. Faking interest in others' hobbies, or using specific body language to assert dominance. It compartmentalized character, often reducing it to mere lip service, while the primary focus remained on influence techniques, power strategies, and positive attitudes. It was all about the outside appearance.
And this is where he brings it back to that painful baseball story. He and Sandra realized their attempts with their son were deeply rooted in this personality ethic.
Yeah, they saw it.
They were perhaps unconsciously driven by social comparison motives and their image of themselves as good parents. The son wasn't measuring up to their standards, and there was a lot more wrapped up in the way we were seeing and handling the problem than our concern for our son's welfare.
Ouch. That's a tough realization for any parent. Their revelation was a true paradigm shift. They recognized that if they wanted to change the situation, they first had to change themselves.
Inside out.
Exactly, and to do that effectively, they needed to change their fundamental perceptions. Instead of trying to change their son, they worked to understand and affirm his uniqueness. Recognizing his potential would be realized at his own pace. They focused on cultivating their own internal security, so their self-worth wasn't dependent on their children's acceptable behavior.
That's a profound realization, shifting the lens from trying to fix others to examining your own core. And it leads to a critical point about trust. Covey emphasizes that if your character is fundamentally flawed, marked by duplicity and insincerity, then any human-influenced strategies or tactics, no matter how clever, will breed distrust.
Absolutely. He uses a powerful analogy. Only basic goodness gives life to technique. It's like trying to cram your way through school. You might pass, but you don't achieve true mastery. Or trying to cram on a farm you can't skip planting in the spring and expect a harvest in the fall. Doesn't work.
That's a crucial principle. True mastery and lasting results demand paying the price and following natural processes. There are no shortcuts. You always reap what you sow. This directly connects to Covey's concept of paradigms, which he describes as the maps in our heads.
The maps analogy. The map is not the territory. I love how he illustrates this. Imagine you have a street map of Chicago, but you're actually in Detroit.
Right.
No matter how hard you try, how diligently you follow the map, or how positive your attitude is, you'll still end up in the wrong place and quickly. Trying harder with the wrong map only gets you to the wrong destination faster.
Precisely. The problem isn't your effort or attitude, it's the inaccurate map itself. If you have the right map of, say, Chicago, then diligence becomes vital, and a positive attitude can truly make a difference when you encounter obstacles.
Right. Then it helps. Covey points out that we all have many mental maps, both of how things are realities and how things should be values. We interpret everything through these maps, and we rarely question their accuracy. We simply assume that the way we see things is the way they really are.
This sounds like a perfect setup for a classic visual demonstration he uses, the young woman, old woman illustration. You look at a picture, and depending on your conditioning, you might see one first, even when you know the other exists.
Exactly. It reveals how powerfully conditioning affects our perceptions, our paradigms. Indeed. If just 10 seconds of conditioning can have that kind of impact, imagine the influence of a lifetime. Our family, school, church, work environment, and even prevailing social paradigms like the personality ethic all subtly and unconsciously shape our frame of reference.
So it's shaping how we see everything.
Constantly. This highlights a fundamental flaw of the personality ethic. Attempting to change outward attitudes and behaviors does little good in the long run if we fail to examine the basic paradigms from which those attitudes and behaviors flow.
So when people disagree with us, we often instinctively think something is wrong with them. But, as Covey puts it, sincere, clear-headed people see things differently, each looking through the unique lens of experience. They have different maps.
That's it. It's not that there are no facts. The black lines and white spaces on that drawing are facts, but those facts have no meaning whatsoever apart from the interpretation, which is shaped by our prior experiences, our conditioning.
Okay.
The key, then, is to become more aware of our own mental maps, take responsibility for them, test them against reality, listen to others, and be open to their perceptions. This allows us to gain a larger picture and a far more objective view.
This understanding is powerfully illustrated by Covey's famous subway anecdote. He describes a peaceful New York subway car abruptly disrupted by a man and his rambunctious, loud children.
Yeah, this one's memorable.
Covey felt immediate irritation and judgment, assuming the father was insensitive and irresponsible for doing nothing. He even observed that everyone else on the subway felt irritated too.
And with what he felt was unusual patience and restraint, Covey turned to the man and said, "Sir, your children are really disturbing a lot of people. I wonder if you couldn't control them a little more."
And the response?
The man slowly lifted his gaze as if becoming aware of the situation for the first time and replied softly, "Oh, you're right. I guess I should do something about it. We just came from the hospital where their mother died about an hour ago. I don't know what to think, and I guess they don't know how to handle it either."
Wow. Just wow.
Yeah.
Instant transformation. My irritation would vanish too, replaced by something entirely different.
Completely. Covey captures it perfectly. My paradigm shifted. Suddenly, I saw things differently, and because I saw differently, I thought differently, I felt differently, I behaved differently, my irritation vanished, I didn't have to worry about controlling my attitude or my behavior. My heart was filled with the man's pain.
Yeah.
Feelings of sympathy and compassion flowed freely. Your wife just died. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you tell me about it? What can I do to help? Everything changed in an instant. It's the ultimate illustration of how a paradigm shift transcends mere behavioral change. It goes deeper.
This brings us to principles and natural laws, the unchanging foundation. Covey emphasizes that these principles are not esoteric, mysterious, or religious ideas. There's not a single principle in his book that is unique to any specific faith.
Right. They're universal.
Instead, they are universal, timeless, and self-evident, validated by individual experience. They are part of the human condition, part of the human consciousness. Things like fairness, integrity, honesty, human dignity, service, quality, excellence, and the principle of potential and growth.
So it's like gravity. It just is. You don't have to believe in gravity for it to affect you if you step off a building.
Exactly. The more closely our mental maps or paradigms align with these principles and natural laws, the more accurate and functional they become. This alignment, Covey argues, will infinitely impact our personal and interpersonal effectiveness far more than any amount of effort expended on changing our attitudes and behaviors.
Which connects directly to the principles of growth and change, which essentially says there are no shortcuts. Growth and development occur in sequential stages. A child learns to roll over, sit up, crawl, then walk and run. Each step is essential. No step can be skipped. This applies across all phases of life, whether learning to play the piano, communicate effectively, or developing character.
The immense appeal of the personality ethic lies in its promise of a quick and easy path to a quality life, to personal effectiveness and deep relationships, without going through the natural process of work and growth.
It's symbol without substance, like a get-rich-quick scheme promising wealth without work. And while it might appear to succeed temporarily, it ultimately disappoints because it attempts to violate or shortcut natural developmental processes.
And while physical pretense is obvious, Covey notes that character and emotional development can be faked, at least in public. Yet, most of us know the truth of what we really are inside, and I think many of those we live with and work with do as well.
Yeah, people usually sense it. This failure to follow natural processes is rampant in the business world, too, where executives try to buy new culture-improved productivity, quality, morale with speeches and external interventions, ignoring the low-trust climate their manipulative tactics create.
And when it doesn't work?
When these methods fail, they simply search for more personality ethic techniques, continually violating the very principles on which a high-trust culture is built. They keep hacking at the leaves.
He shares a compelling anecdote about his daughter refusing to share presents. The atmosphere was charged, with children crowding her, asking to play with gifts. His initial reaction was to force her to share, driven by a concern for the opinion those parents had of me more than the growth and development of my child and our relationship together.
Oh, that's social pressure again.
Sure, right. He realized that borrowed strength, using superior size, authority, or status, is temporary. True growth requires internal strength and allowing free choice. He learned that patience and the sense of possessing must come before genuine sharing. You can't truly give something away unless you first possess it.
That makes sense. Once children gain a sense of real possession, Covey notes, they share naturally. He also learned a crucial lesson. There are times to teach and times not to teach. When relationships are strained, an attempt to teach is often perceived as judgment.
That's a powerful insight, especially for parents. And it brings us to another fundamental concept, the PPC balance. Covey defines effectiveness using Aesop's timeless fable of the goose and the golden egg.
Classic fable. So P stands for production, the golden egg representing the desired results. And PC stands for production capability, the goose representing the asset or ability that produces those results.
And the greedy farmer.
The farmer, consumed by greed, killed the goose to get all the eggs at once, destroying his ability to produce any more. This powerfully illustrates that short-term results at the expense of long-term capability lead to ruin. Simple, but profound.
So neglecting the goose,
the
PC work, for the sake of more golden eggs or immediate results, is a recipe for disaster in any domain.
Absolutely. For example, parents neglecting the PC work, the training, communicating, relating, and listening, when their children are little, often prioritizing popularity or control, then find that when those children become teenagers, their relationship isn't strong enough to effectively communicate or influence them. The account is overdrawn.
Right.
Similarly, in organizations, managers might push for production without maintenance of physical assets like machines, or water down quality, like the restaurant that became famous for fantastic clam chowder, but then diluted it for short-term profit.
They gained immediate golden eggs, but lost the asset of customer loyalty because there was no more goose to produce the golden egg.
Exactly. This principle, the PPC balance, is universal, applying to individuals, families, and organizations alike, highlighting its correct and valuable nature. It's foundational to sustained effectiveness. You need both P and PC.
Now, with these foundational concepts of paradigms, principles, and the PPC balance firmly in mind, we transition into what Covey calls the private victories. Habits 1, 2, and 3 are all about self-mastery.
Moving from dependence to independence.
They move a person from dependence to independence. Covey emphasizes that this is an inside-out process, like planting before harvesting. You can't invert that process any more than you can harvest a crop before you plant it.
This is where we delve into habit 1, be proactive, which centers on the profound principle. Between stimulus and response, man has the freedom to choose. This freedom, Covey asserts, is our greatest power.
It's a concept that directly challenges prevalent social maps that suggest we are predetermined. Covey identifies 3 such theories. Genetic determinism, which blames our grandparents.
Right, it's in my DNA.
Psychic determinism, which blames upbringing, arguing our parents shaped our personality.
My parents did this to me.
And environmental determinism, which says our boss, spouse, or economic situation are ultimately responsible for our circumstances.
My boss is why I'm miserable. Covey argues these deterministic paradigms come primarily from studying animals or neurotic people and don't describe the territory at all. They limit us.
He powerfully illustrates this with Viktor Frankl's harrowing experience in Nazi death camps. Frankl's entire family perished, and he endured torture and innumerable indignities. Yet one day, naked and alone in a small room, he became profoundly aware of the last of the human freedoms, the freedom his Nazi captors could not take away.
Incredible. They could control his environment and body, but Frankl realized his basic identity was intact. He could decide within himself how all this was going to affect him. Between what happened to him, or the stimulus, and his response to it, was his freedom or power to choose that response.
And he became an inspiration by choosing his internal attitude, even helping others find meaning in their suffering.
It's an incredible testament to human spirit. Covey highlights 4 uniquely human endowments that enable this choice: self-awareness, imagination, the ability to create in our minds beyond our present reality; conscience, a deep inner awareness of right and wrong; and independent will, the ability to act based on our self-awareness, free of all other influences.
These enable us to not only choose our response, but also to create circumstances ourselves. We're not just products of our environment.
Taking initiative, then, isn't about being pushy or aggressive, but about recognizing our responsibility to make things happen. Proactive people identify problems and offer solutions. Covey gives the example of proactive job seekers who don't just send resumes. They research the industry, understand an organization's specific problems, and then develop presentations showing how their abilities can help solve those problems. That's solution selling.
This proactive mindset is often reflected in our language. Reactive people use language that absolves them of responsibility. That's just the way I am. He makes me so mad. I can't do that. I just don't have the time, or I have to do it.
Covey explains that a serious problem with reactive language is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, making people feel increasingly victimized and out of control, blaming outside forces. It shrinks their power.
In contrast, proactive language takes responsibility. Instead of I have to, it's I choose to.
Right. Covey recounts a powerful dialogue with a man whose marriage had gone flat, saying he didn't love her anymore. Covey's response, love her.
Just love her.
Yeah. When the man protested the feeling wasn't there, Covey replied, then love her. If the feeling isn't there, that's a good reason to love her. He explains, love is a verb. Love the feeling is a fruit of love, the verb.
Okay. Action first.
Reactive people are driven by feelings. Proactive people subordinate feelings to values. Love is something you do. The sacrifices you make, the giving of self-serving, listening, empathizing, affirming. It's a choice.
He also introduces the circles of concern and influence. The circle of concern encompasses things we have no control over, like other people's weaknesses, environmental problems, or circumstances.
Reactive people focus their energy here, which results in blaming and accusing attitudes, reactive language, and increased feelings of victimization, causing their circle of influence to shrink. They give away their power.
But proactive people focus on their circle of influence. things they can do something about, like their own habits, methods of influence, and responses to problems outside their direct control.
Their energy is positive, enlarging and magnifying, causing their circle of influence to increase. He shares the example of an executive working under a dictatorial president. Instead of complaining, this executive proactively focused on his circle of influence by anticipating the president's needs, empathizing with his underlying concerns, and providing extra information and recommendations.
And over time,
The president began to seek his opinion, and his circle of influence had grown. He changed the situation by changing himself.
this perfectly reinforces Covey's inside-out approach. The proactive approach is to change from the inside out, to be different, and by being different, to effect positive change in what's out there. Just like the biblical story of Joseph in Egypt, who, sold into slavery, worked on being and became invaluable in his circumstances, ultimately running Potiphar's household due to the high trust he earned.
Covey challenges us to a 30-day test of proactivity. Simply try it and see what happens. For 30 days, work only in your circle of influence. Make small commitments and keep them. Be a light, not a judge. Be a model, not a critic. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
That's a practical challenge.
He urges us to apply this in marriage, family, and our jobs. When you make a mistake, admit it, correct it, and learn from it immediately. Don't get into a blaming, accusing mode. Work on things you have control over. Work on you, on B.
That's a powerful and practical challenge. Once you've taken full responsibility for your own choices, what's the next step in shaping your life intentionally? How do you direct that proactivity?
That's where habit 2 comes in. Begin with the end in mind. Covey opens this habit with a truly powerful mental exercise, the funeral visualization.
Oh, right. This one's deep.
He asks you to imagine your own funeral 3 years from today. As you approach the casket, you realize you're attending your own funeral. You hear 4 people speak from your family, your friends, your work, and your community. What would you want them to say about you and your life? What kind of character, contributions, and achievements would you want them to remember?
This is a profound way to connect with your deepest values, almost like establishing contact with an inner guidance system. It's about ensuring each day of your life contributes in a meaningful way to the vision you have of your life as a whole.
Exactly. Without this clear end in mind, as Covey warns, if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. We might be busy and efficient, but not truly effective, climbing the wrong ladder.
This brings us to a core principle. All things are created twice.
There's a mental or first creation and a physical or second creation to all things. Think of building a home. You design it in every detail mentally before ever hammering the first nail. The blueprint comes first.
Right.
The same holds true for parenting. If you want responsible, self-disciplined children, you have to keep that end clearly in mind daily. That's the first creation.
And if we don't consciously design our first creation, our life, we allow external people and circumstances outside our circle of influence to shape it by default.
Yeah, we reactively live the scripts handed to us by family, associates, other people's agendas, or the pressures of circumstance. This leads to a critical distinction between leadership and management.
Ah, yes. Leadership versus management.
Indeed. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Management focuses on the bottom line, efficiency, and how to best accomplish things.
Climbing the ladder efficiently.
Right. Leadership, conversely, deals with the top line. What are the right things to accomplish? Management is efficiency in climbing the ladder of success. Leadership determines whether the ladder is leaning against the right wall.
The vivid analogy of a group of producers cutting their way through the jungle with machetes, managers sharpening them, and the leader climbing the tallest tree to yell, "Wrong jungle," perfectly illustrates this.
Yes. No amount of efficient machete wielding can compensate for being in the wrong jungle. And in our rapidly changing world, effective leadership is more critical than ever, not just in organizations, but in every aspect of our personal and interdependent lives. We need a vision, a destination, and a compass of principles, more than a fixed roadmap.
So to truly begin with the end in mind, we need rescripting, becoming your own first creator. Since we already live with many scripts handed to us, this process is often more about rescripting, changing some of the basic, often ineffective paradigms we've inherited.
Exactly. As we recognize these incorrect or incomplete scripts, we can proactively begin to rewrite them. Use those human endowments.
A powerful example is Anwar Sadat, who was reared, nurtured and deeply scripted in a hatred for Israel, even vowing never, never, never to shake an Israeli hand. He had rallied an entire nation behind that script.
Wow, talk about a deep script.
Yet, from the solitude of a prison cell, he learned to withdraw from his own mind and look at it to see if the scripts were correct. He re-scripted himself, realizing the perilous, highly interdependent reality. He ultimately pursued peace with Israel, demonstrating the profound power of re-evaluating and changing one's own deeply ingrained scripts.
Incredible. Covey also illustrates how a self-aware parent who may typically overreact to their children's inappropriate behavior can use imagination and conscience to align their actions with their deepest values for their children, moving from reactive behavior to proactive, value-driven interaction that is congruent with my deepest values and in harmony with correct principles, re-scripting that reactive pattern.
This brings us to developing a personal mission statement, the most effective way to begin with the end in mind. It's a philosophy or creed that focuses on what you want to be, character, and to do, contributions and achievements, and on the values or principles upon which being and doing are based, your personal constitution.
This statement is unique to each individual and provides a changeless core in a rapidly changing world, allowing one to flow with changes without prejudgments. Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, which focuses on helping individuals detect his unique meaning, his mission in life, aligns perfectly with this, providing a powerful sense of direction and proactivity. Once you have that sense of mission, you have the essence of your own proactivity.
Covey then explores various alternative centers that people often base their lives on rather than principles. He lists spouse-centeredness, family-centeredness, money-centeredness, possession-centeredness, work-centeredness, pleasure-centeredness, friend-centeredness, enemy-centeredness, and church-centeredness, a whole list of them.
While some of these, like spouse or family, seem inherently good, Covey argues that they all ultimately limit security, guidance, wisdom, and power, leading to fluctuating self-worth and reactive behavior.
How so? Like spouse-centeredness?
For instance, centering your life on your spouse can lead to strong emotional dependence and making you vulnerable to their moods and feelings. Money-centeredness, while addressing a basic need, provides no wisdom, no guidance, and only a limited degree of security. Even church-centeredness can lead to image focus and hypocrisy if image or appearance become the dominant consideration. You're building on shifting sands.
The most common and most limited center, he notes, is self-centeredness, which, in its obvious form of selfishness, leads to stagnation. Like the Dead Sea in Palestine, it accepts but never gives. It becomes stagnant.
Right. However, self-development in the greater perspective of improving one's ability to serve, to produce, to contribute in meaningful ways gives context for dramatic increase in the 4 life support factors. So development for contribution, not just self.
The ideal, then, is principle-centeredness, centering one's life on deep fundamental truths, which provides constancy, wisdom, security, guidance, and power. These principles are deep fundamental truths, classic truths, generic common denominators, to the solid rock.
This principle-centered approach allows us to use our whole brain, tapping into both our logical and intuitive capacities.
This leads to the idea of visualization and affirmations. Covey explains that our self-awareness allows us to examine our own thoughts, which is particularly helpful in creating a personal mission statement, because the 2 unique human endowments that enable habit to imagination and conscience are primarily functions of the right side of the brain.
Right brain stuff. Understanding how to tap into that right brain capacity greatly increases our first creation ability. He describes how to write a good affirmation. It's personal, positive, present tense, visual, and emotional. Gotta have all 5.
For instance, a parent who tends to overreact might affirm, "It is deeply satisfying, emotional, that I personally respond, present tense, with wisdom, love, firmness, and self-control, positive, when my children misbehave."
Covey shares how he helped his son, Sean, use this affirmation process extensively throughout his football career, visualizing successful plays and overcoming anxiety. This aligns with Dr. Charles Garfield's research on peak performers, both in athletics and business, who are almost all visualizers. They see it, they feel it, they experience it before they actually do it. Mental rehearsal.
Now on to habit 3, put first things first. Covey emphasizes that this is the second creation, the physical creation. It's the fulfillment, the actualization, the natural emergence of habits 1 and 2.
Making it happen.
It's the exercise of independent will toward becoming principle-centered. It's the day in, day out, moment by moment doing it. He asserts that habits 1 and 2 are absolutely essential and prerequisite to habit 3. You cannot be truly principle-centered without first developing your proactive nature and a clear vision.
This habit is all about effective self-management. Remember, leadership, habit 2, asks, what are the right things to do? Management, habit 3, focuses on doing things right. Efficiency, breaking down, sequencing, and specific application.
So leadership sets the direction, management executes.
Exactly. Management is crucial if you're in the right jungle, and it determines the quality and even the existence of the second creation. The essence of the best thinking and time management, Covey says, can be captured in a single phrase: organize and execute around priorities.
Covey traces the evolution through 4 generations of time management. The first generation was simply checklists and to-do lists. The second brought appointment books and calendars.
The third generation introduced prioritized to-do lists, often with A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3 classifications based on values. While valuable, Covey highlights their limitations. They often prioritize urgent quadrant line and 3 activities, straining relationships and lacking balance. This efficiency focus tends to strain relationships rather than build them, and fails to adequately facilitate organizing and executing around critical quadrant 2 activities. You're just reacting to urgency.
And that leads to the fourth generation, the most effective approach, which is principle-centered and focuses on quadrant 2 activities, those that are important but not urgent. Let's break those quadrants down.
Okay. Quadrant I, urgent and important. This quadrant deals with crises, pressing problems, and deadline-driven projects. Covey says Quadrant I consumes many people. They are crisis managers, problem-minded people, deadline-driven producers. Firefighting mode.
Got it. Urgent and important.
Quadrant II, not urgent and important. These are activities like prevention, PC activities, relationship building, recognizing new opportunities, planning, and recreation. These activities have that kind of impact, leading to quantum leaps in effectiveness.
So this is the key one.
Absolutely. They are often neglected because they're not urgent, but they are crucial for long-term growth and avoiding future crises, investing in the future.
Okay. Quadrant 3.
Quadrant 3, urgent and not important. This includes interruptions, some mail, and some meetings. These are often mistaken for Quadrant 4, but they are not important to your core mission. The urgency trap.
And finally, Quadrant 4.
Quadrant 4, not urgent and not important. This quadrant is for trivia, busy work, and time wasters, escape activities, basically.
The key to saying no to important but not urgent tasks, even good ones, is having a bigger yes burning inside, a clear personal mission. The enemy of the best is often merely the good.
Exactly. He gives the example of a proactive writer who, when asked by his director to work on urgent but less important tasks, showed his manager his long list of already negotiated important projects and asked which the manager wanted to delay or cancel. The director, not wanting to take responsibility for delaying truly important projects, found another crisis manager to handle his urgent, less important task. Brilliant move.
This approach leads to advocating for weekly organizing to prioritize Quadrant 2 activities, creating balance across different life roles like parent, spouse, or professional. He says you can still adapt and prioritize on a daily basis, but the fundamental thrust is organizing the week.
He emphasizes that you simply can't think efficiency with people. You think effectiveness with people and efficiency with things. Trying to give 10 minutes of quality time to a child or employee to efficiently solve a problem often creates new problems and seldom resolves the deepest concern. You need effectiveness with people.
A critical element of effective management is delegation, which Covey describes as moving the fulcrum, leveraging your time and effort. A manager can invest 1 hour and produce 10 or 100 units of results through effective delegation, rather than just 1 unit as a producer.
He distinguishes between 2 types: gopher delegation and stewardship delegation. Gopher delegation means go for this, do that, and tell me when it's done, where the manager is responsible for results and focuses on specific methods. Micromanaging, essentially.
But stewardship delegation is focused on results instead of methods. It gives people a choice of method and makes them responsible for results.
Right. It takes more time in the beginning, but it's time well invested. This approach leverages the self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will of other people. Stewardship delegation outlines 5 elements: desired results, focus on what, guidelines, parameters, resources, support, accountability, self-evaluation, and consequences, what happens, good or bad. Clarity is key.
He shares the powerful green and clean story of delegating yard work to his 7-year-old son, Stephen. Covey began a thorough training process, showing Stephen their neighbor's meticulously kept yard as an example of green and clean.
Setting the standard.
He told Stephen, "Now how you get it green is up to you. You're free to do it any way you want except paint it." but I'll tell you how I'd do it if it were up to me. He clarified who was the boss. You're the boss. You boss yourself. And who was the judge? I am. We'll walk around 2 times a week, and I can show you how it's coming.
After 2 weeks of training, the agreement was struck. But for days, Stephen did nothing. Covey felt the urge to revert to gopher delegation, to yell, "Son, you get over here and pick up this garbage right now or else."
Yeah.
He knew he could get the golden egg that way, but he questioned, what about the goose? What would happen to his internal commitment?
So despite his impatience, Covey honored their agreement. When he eventually asked Stephen how the yard was coming, Stephen replied, "Fine." Covey realized he had broken their agreement by asking in a way that signaled his own judgment.
Ha! Subtle.
Later, when Stephen asked for help picking up garbage from a barbecue, Covey did exactly what he asked me to do. This was the pivotal moment when his son signed the agreement in his heart. It became his yard, his stewardship.
Wow. That's powerful.
Stephen only asked for help 2 or 3 more times that entire summer, keeping the yard greener and cleaner than ever, and even reprimanding his siblings. This time well-invested downstream led to the son taking full responsibility, illustrating how it builds internal capacity to want to manage, not just to produce. Building the goose.
So habits 1, 2, and 3, these private victories, culminate in the achievement of independence. Real self-respect comes from dominion over self, from true independence. Covey emphasizes that independence is an achievement, and interdependence is a choice only independent people can make.
Okay, that's key.
Unless we are willing to achieve real independence, it's foolish to try to develop human relations skills. Without this foundation, efforts in human relations, interdependence, will not last when difficulties arise, because when the difficult times come, and they will, we won't have the foundation to keep things together. You need that inner strength first.
Now we enter the public victories, mastering interdependence, which comprises habits 4, 5, and 6. Covey explains that interdependence opens up worlds of possibilities for deep, rich, meaningful associations, for geometrically increased productivity, for serving, for contributing, for learning, for growing.
But it is also where we experience the greatest pain, the greatest frustration, the greatest roadblocks to happiness and success. This acute pain of interpersonal problems often leads to quick fixes and techniques, the band-aids of the personality essence.
Right, back to the band-aids.
But we often fail to understand that this acute pain is an outgrowth of a deeper chronic problem, and until we stop treating the symptoms and start addressing the root cause, our efforts will only bring counterproductive results. Hacking at leaves again.
The foundation for these public victories is the emotional bank account. Covey uses this powerful analogy. Trust in a relationship is like a bank account.
Yeah, I love this one. Consistent deposits like courtesy, kindness, understanding, and keeping commitments build a reserve, allowing for occasional withdrawals or mistakes. But if you have a habit of showing discourtesy, disrespect, cutting you off, overreacting, ignoring you, becoming arbitrary, betraying your trust, threatening you, or playing little tin god in your life, eventually my emotional bank account is overdrawn. The trust level gets very low.
Then you're walking on minefields. It's tension city, memo haven. It's protecting my backside, politicking. This applies to organizations, families, and marriages.
And constant relationships, like marriage, require the most constant deposits as old deposits evaporate with continuing expectations. He illustrates this with a teenage son whose normal conversation with his parent is a string of commands like clean your room, button your shirt, turn down the radio.
Constant withdrawals.
Over time, the withdrawals far exceed the deposits. Now, suppose this son is making important life decisions. The trust level is so low that he simply will not be open to your counsel. Even if you have the wisdom to offer, he'll make decisions from a short-range emotional perspective because your account is so overdrawn. He won't listen.
Covey highlights 6 major deposits to build this account. First, and arguably most important, is understanding the individual.
You simply don't know what truly constitutes a deposit to another person until you understand that individual. He shares the story of a friend who took his son to see every Major League Baseball team play one game, not because he liked baseball, but because, as he put it, I like my son that much. That was a huge deposit for that son.
Second, attending to the little things. The little kindnesses and courtesies are so important. Small discourtesies, little unkindnesses, little forms of disrespect make large withdrawals. In relationships, the little things are the big things.
He recounts an evening with his 2 sons at an outing where his younger son, Sean, fell asleep. After the movie, Covey carried Sean home, tucking him into bed, even arranging his own coat around Sean. When he later tried to talk to his older son, Stephen, Stephen was quiet and wouldn't open up.
Why?
Covey realized Stephen was likely disappointed that this little kindness towards Sean had inadvertently overshadowed their shared experience. A seemingly small thing, but a withdrawal for Stephen.
Third, keeping commitments. Breaking commitments, even small ones, makes huge withdrawals. Integrity builds trust. Simple as that.
Fourth, clarifying expectations. Unclear or implicit expectations lead to misunderstanding, disappointment, and withdrawals of trust. Many expectations go unstated but are deeply felt. The deposit is to make the expectations clear and explicit in the beginning. This takes a real investment of time and effort up front, but it saves great amounts of time and effort down the road. Preventative maintenance.
Fifth, showing personal integrity. Personal integrity generates trust and is the basis of many different kinds of deposits. Lack of integrity, such as being inwardly duplicitous or bad-mouthing someone behind their back, undermines trust because it reveals your own lack of consistency. Integrity in an interdependent reality is simply this. You treat everyone by the same set of principles. As you do, people will come to trust you. Walk the talk.
And sixth, apologizing sincerely when you make a withdrawal. When we make withdrawals, we need to apologize and we need to do it sincerely. Great deposits come from sincere words like, I was wrong, or I showed you no respect. This takes a great deal of character strength to apologize quickly out of one's heart rather than out of pity.
It's hard for some people.
People with low internal security struggle to do it, fearing vulnerability. He shares the story of apologizing to his son David after misinterpreting a situation, only for David to refuse forgiveness because you did the same thing last week. The account was already overdrawn. Sincere apologies make deposits. Repeated insincere apologies make withdrawals.
So sincerity matters.
Hugely. People will forgive mistakes because mistakes are usually of the mind. But people will not easily forgive the mistakes of the heart, the ill intention, the bad motives, the prideful justifying cover-up of the first mistake.
This connects to the laws of love and life. When we make deposits of unconditional love, living the primary laws of love, we empower others to lift themselves and to use their freedom to choose what is best for them.
Conversely, when we violate these laws by attaching strings and conditions to love, we actually encourage others to violate the primary laws of life, putting them in a reactive, defensive position where they feel they have to prove, I matter as a person, independent of you. They become interdependent, which is another form of dependency and is at the lowest end of the maturity continuum. It pushes them away.
Covey shares an anecdote of a father whose conditional love for his son's college choice led to initial resistance. The son felt the father's desire for him to attend a specific school outweighed the value he placed on him as a person.
After some soul-searching, the father decided to renounce conditional love. He and his wife resolved to love their son unconditionally, regardless of his choice. Although the son initially decided not to go, later, no longer feeling he had to defend his position, he independently decided to attend. This illustrates that shifting to unconditional love ultimately led to the son choosing the desired path on his own terms. Powerful stuff.
Covey also recounts a transformative experience rebuilding a strained relationship with a difficult colleague. Inspired by Dag Hammarskjöld's statement that it is more noble to give yourself completely to one individual than to labor diligently for the salvation of the masses, he realized he had to steel myself for what lay ahead, anticipating an ugly confrontation.
He prepared by focusing on principles, not practices. To his surprise, the man had been going through the same process and longed for such a conversation. They confronted deep issues one by one with mutual respect, developing a powerful complementary team and deep personal affection. This demonstrates that P problems are PC opportunities. Problems can create opportunities to build deep relationships and increase production capability. Turn conflict into connection.
Now for habit 4. Think win-win. Covey illustrates a common flawed paradigm by describing a sales manager who talked about cooperation but then pulled a curtain to reveal a race to Bermuda sales contest where only one person could win.
Right. Sending mixed messages. It was like telling one flower to grow and watering another. He wanted cooperation but was setting his people up in competition. You can't change the fruit without changing the root. Working on attitudes and behaviors would have been hacking at the leaves. Instead, they needed to develop information and reward systems that reinforced cooperation, align the system.
Win-win is a frame of mind and heart that constantly seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions. It's cooperative, not competitive, and rooted in the abundance mentality, the paradigm that there is plenty for everybody and one person's success doesn't diminish another's.
He contrasts this with other philosophies. Win-lose is the authoritarian approach, meaning, I get my way, you don't. It's rooted in comparison and competition, seen in academic grading curves or litigation.
Then there's lose-win.
That's the permissive approach, seeking popularity without standards, leading to suppressed feelings. Lose-lose is when both parties lose, often found in adversarial conflict or among highly dependent persons without inner direction. Then there's simply win, where a person focuses on securing his own ends and leaving it to others to secure theirs.
So which is best?
Well, it depends on the situation. Like, football is inherently win-lose. However, win-win is ideal for cooperation and long-term effectiveness in interdependent situations.
A crucial option when win-win isn't possible, particularly at the beginning of a business relationship, is win-win or no deal.
Yes. This approach preserves relationships rather than forcing an unsatisfactory compromise, which can create serious long-term problems. Sometimes walking away is the win-win.
Covey outlines 5 dimensions of win-win, beyond just the agreement itself. First is character, which is the foundation.
Right. It requires integrity, consistency between self and principles, maturity, the balance between courage and consideration, the ability to express one's own feelings balanced with consideration for others. Covey calls it nice and tough, even twice as tough as win-lose because it demands both empathy and confidence. And the abundance mentality, the paradigm that there's plenty out there for everybody, contrasting with the scarcity mentality, which sees life as a zero-sum game.
Second, relationships. High emotional bank accounts are essential for win-win and synergy. When bank accounts are high, it eliminates the negative energy normally focused on differences in personality and position and creates a positive, cooperative energy focused on thoroughly understanding the issues and resolving them in a mutually beneficial way. Trust makes it possible.
Third, agreements. Win-win agreements are sometimes called performance agreements or partnership agreements, shifting the paradigm of productive interaction from vertical to horizontal. These agreements clarify and manage expectations using the same 5 elements discussed in stewardship delegation and habit 3: desired results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences.
And fourth, systems. Win-win can only survive in an organization when the systems support it.
Critical point. If you talk win-win but reward win-lose, you've got a losing program on your hands. You basically get what you reward. He gives an example of a large real estate organization that changed its compensation system so that managers only made money when their salespeople made money, thereby overlapping the needs and goals of the managers with the needs and goals of the salespeople. And the need for human relations training suddenly disappeared. The system drove the behavior.
Next, habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. He starts with the powerful optometrist analogy. A doctor prescribing his own glasses that don't work for the patient, then getting frustrated by the patient's lack of positive response. What's wrong? They work great for me. Try harder.
Huh. Yeah, that perfectly illustrates trying to help without truly understanding, prescribing before diagnosing.
Covey emphasizes that your real key to your influence is your example, your actual conduct, which flows from your character. If your private performance doesn't square with your public performance, it's very hard for me to open up with you.
And unless I open up with you, unless you understand me and my unique situation and feelings, you won't know how to advise or counsel me. The core paradigm shift is that most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply.
Just waiting to talk.
They're either speaking or preparing to speak. They're filtering everything through their own paradigms, reading their autobiography into other people's lives.
Covey describes 5 levels of listening. Most people operate at one of 4 lower levels. Ignoring, pretending, selective listening or attentive listening. But very few of us ever practice the 5th level, the highest form of listening, empathic listening.
Empathic listening is listening with the intent to truly understand, to receive the deep communication of another human soul. It is so powerful because it gives you accurate data to work with. Instead of projecting your own autobiography and assuming thoughts, feelings, motives, and interpretation, you're dealing with the reality inside another person's head and heart.
And it builds trust.
Exactly. It's also the key to making deposits in emotional bank accounts, because nothing you do is a deposit unless the other person perceives it as such. You have to understand what matters to them.
This leads to the principle of diagnose before you prescribe, which is a correct principle, evident in all areas of life. Professional sales, law, product design, and especially parenting. The key to good judgment is understanding. By judging first, a person will never fully understand.
Covey illustrates common, unhelpful, autobiographical responses that arise when we don't listen empathically, probing, advising, interpreting, and evaluating, giving advice too soon, jumping to conclusions.
Right. He provides a father-son dialogue where the son says, "School is for the birds." The father's initial responses are all autobiographical, like, "What's wrong, son? I went through the same thing." These responses shut down communication, preventing true understanding, often reflecting the listener's own paradigm. The son ends up saying, "Oh, never mind, I don't want to talk about this anyway."
But then, Covey replays the father-son dialogue, this time with empathic responses. When the son says, "School is for the birds," the father replies, "You're really frustrated about school," reflecting the feeling.
And later, when the son admits, "I'm going to flunk, Dad. I guess I figure if I'm going to flunk, I might as well quit. But I don't want to quit," the father responds empathically. You feel torn. You're in the middle of a dilemma.
This shift opens up the son, allowing him to reveal the real problem: fear of flunking and commitment to coaching sixth graders. This turns a transactional opportunity into a transformational opportunity, making a tremendous deposit in the emotional bank account. Huge difference.
While empathic listening takes time, it saves so much time downstream by preventing misunderstandings and building trust.
Absolutely. The most efficient thing you can do if you're a doctor and want to prescribe a wise treatment is to make an accurate diagnosis. He uses an anecdote of closing one window in a breezy room to organize papers instead of frantically chasing them as an analogy for pausing to understand. He also shares a negotiation example where a company president had the opposing team write the contract, then demonstrated deep understanding of their needs before presenting his own.
And the result?
This built massive trust and led to a win-win outcome where the other team wanted to work with him, saying, "Just let us know what the price is and we'll sign." Understanding created the opening.
The second half of Habit 5 is then seek to be understood. This is equally critical in reaching win-win solutions.
Right. Seeking to understand requires consideration. Seeking to be understood takes courage. Win-win requires a high degree of both. The early Greeks had a magnificent philosophy embodied in 3 sequentially arranged words: ethos, your personal credibility, trustworthiness, integrity; pathos, your empathic side, the feeling; and logos, the logic, the reasoning part of the presentation.
Ethos, pathos, logos.
Covey suggests these contain the essence of effective presentations. First, build ethos and pathos by understanding and empathizing. Then present your logical arguments, logos. When you can present your own ideas clearly, specifically, visually, and most important, contextually, in the context of a deep understanding of other people's paradigms and concerns, you significantly increase the credibility of your ideas. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Finally, Habit 6, synergize.
When properly understood, synergy is the highest activity in all life, the true test and manifestation of all of the other habits put together. Simply defined, it means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. 1 + 1 affers or more.
The magic happens here.
It is the essence of principle-centered leadership because it catalyzes, unifies, and unleashes the greatest powers within people. It creates new alternatives, something that wasn't there before. Innovation.
Nature itself demonstrates synergy. If you plant 2 plants close together, their roots improve the soil so both grow better. 2 pieces of wood held together hold more than the sum of their individual capacities.
This principle applies to our social interactions. The essence of synergy is to value differences, to respect them, to build on strengths, and to compensate for weaknesses. As Covey puts it, sameness is not oneness. Uniformity is not unity. Unity, or oneness, is complementariness.
He explains the animal school fable, where animals are forced into a uniform curriculum, running, climbing, swimming, flying, and assessed against the same criteria.
Leading to frustration and mediocrity because it doesn't value individual strengths, like the duck being excellent at swimming, but having to drop it to practice running, which ruins its webbed feet. Valuing differences is key.
Synergy is about fishing for the third alternative. He illustrates this with a husband and wife vacation dilemma. The husband wants a fishing trip, the wife wants to visit her ailing mother.
Traditional win-lose, one gets their way, the other is resentful, or compromise solutions like splitting up with each feeling guilty and unhappy leave both feeling unfulfilled. But with a high emotional bank account, win-win thinking and empathic listening, they pool those desires, and they're not on opposite sides of the problem.
They work together.
They're together on one side, looking at the problem, understanding the needs, and working to create a third alternative that will meet them. This middle way is higher, like the apex of the triangle, a better solution than either started with.
Covey explains Kurt Lewin's force field analysis model. Any current level of performance is an equilibrium between driving forces, positive, logical, encouraging movement, and restraining forces, negative, emotional, discouraging it.
Increasing driving forces alone often creates a yo-yo effect. Resistance builds. Synergy works by reducing restraining forces, creating an atmosphere in which it is safe to talk about these restraining forces, like competitive spirits or different scriptings, allowing for safe communication and problem solving. Address the fears, the resistance.
Trust and communication levels are key. Low trust communication is defensive and protective, producing only win-lose or lose-lose.
Respectful communication is polite and intellectual, often leading to compromise. Line plus 1.5, porque but not great.
But synergistic communication, high trust, is creative, open, and leads to new insights and options. 1 plus 1 pokai or more. That's the goal.
Once experienced, people are never quite the same again, knowing the possibility of mind-expanding adventures.
Covey emphasizes that intrapersonal synergy within oneself, is also vital, rooted in the first 3 habits. This internal security allows for the risks of being open and vulnerable.
It means having access to both the intuitive, creative right brain and the analytical, logical left brain for whole brain thinking, which is better suited to life's reality because life is not just logical, but also emotional. He gives an example of a president of a company who asked Covey to observe him and his wife communicate because he felt she should be a more sensitive wife. And he focused on facts, while she focused on general feelings, highlighting the need to value both perspectives.
Once experienced, people are never quite the same again. It requires courage to be authentic and confront inside truths about oneself or an organization, leading to unexpected insights and plans.
Often attempts are made to recreate a particular synergistic experience, but this seldom can be done. However, the essential purpose behind creative work can be recaptured by seeking not to imitate past creative synergistic experiences. Rather, we seek new ones around new and different and sometimes higher purposes. Keep creating.
This brings us to habit 7, sharpen the saw, which is all about continuous improvement and renewal.
Gotta keep the tool sharp. Covey calls this the single most powerful investment we can ever make in life investment in ourselves, in the only instrument we have with which to deal with life and to contribute. It means regularly renewing the 4 dimensions of human nature: physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional.
Covey stresses that sharpen the saw activities are classic quadrant 2, important but not urgent. Neglecting them leads to quadrant crises. He emphatically states, most of us think we don't have enough time to exercise. What a distorted paradigm. We don't have time not to.
He recommends 3 to 6 hours a week, or a minimum of 30 minutes a day, every other day. Just make the time.
First, the physical dimension involves caring for our physical body, eating right, getting sufficient rest, and exercising on a regular basis. Endurance, flexibility, strength.
He explains that aerobic exercise builds endurance by increasing heart rate to 87% of maximum for 30 minutes. He shares a story of a friend with a PhD in exercise physiology who is building strength through bench presses. His friend explained that almost all the benefit of the exercise comes at the very end, when the muscle fiber ruptures and nature overcompensates, making the fiber stronger.
Interesting. Applies elsewhere too.
It's the same principle that works with emotional muscles as well, such as patience. If you haven't been exercising, your body will protest this change, but Covey advises to be proactive, do it anyway. This quadrant 2 activity will bring phenomenal long-term results, leading to increased energy and comfort in daily activities.
Second, the spiritual dimension, which is the core of personal leadership. Habit 2, connecting with your values.
Activities include meditation, prayer, scripture study, connecting with nature, or listening to good music. These are quadrant 2 activities we don't really have time to neglect. He recounts a man on vacation who received a doctor's unusual prescription. Listen carefully to the sea, try reaching back to memories, examine your motives deeply, and write your worries on the sand. This illustrates finding peace, connection, clarity, and releasing burdens.
Martin Luther famously said, "I have so much to do today, I'll need to spend another hour on my knees," showing prayer as a source of power, not a mechanical duty.
Third, the mental dimension, which is the core of personal management, habit 3. This involves continuing education, continually honing and expanding the mind. This could be formal classroom study, but more often it does not. Proactive people can figure out many, many ways to educate themselves.
Like reading.
He stresses the value of reading good literature, recommending a book a month, then a book every 2 weeks, then a book a week. Reading quality literature, such as the great books, the Harvard classics, autobiographies, National Geographic, and other publications that expand our cultural awareness, can expand our paradigms and sharpen our mental saw, particularly if we practice habit 5 as we read and seek first to understand.
And writing.
He also mentions writing, such as journaling, which promotes mental clarity, exactness, and context, and writing good letters, which affects our ability to think clearly, to reason accurately, and to be understood effectively. Organizing and planning also represent mental renewal. He notes that wars are won in the general's tent, emphasizing the importance of mental preparation. Thinking time.
Fourth, the social-emotional dimension, which is the core of public victories. Habits 4, 5, 6.
Relationship. This involves investing in serving others, empathy, creating intrinsic security, not dependent on others' opinions. It's about being a positive scripter, someone who believes in others, affirms their proactive nature, and inspires them toward a higher path.
He shares the story from The Musical Man of La Mancha, where the knight sees the prostitute's inner beauty and virtue, persistently affirming her true identity as Dulcinea until she begins to believe and change, despite her old scripts.
This illustrates the power of unconditional love and positive scripting, seeing the potential in others. He also cites a classic story about a computer mislabeling bright students dumb and vice versa, leading to self-fulfilling prophecies as teachers' paradigms influenced outcomes. Our beliefs about others matter.
Covey summarizes these efforts as the daily private victory, advocating a minimum of 1 hour a day every day doing it. 1 hour a day for the rest of your life.
That's the commitment. This is the key to the development of the 7 habits and completely within our circle of influence, forming the foundation for the daily public victory. Take care of the instrument.
So to conclude, Covey reiterates the central inside-out paradigm of the book, as he quotes Ezra Taft Benson. The Lord works from the inside out. The world works from the outside in.
The world would take people out of the slums. Christ takes the slums out of people, and then they take themselves out of the slums. The world would mold men by changing their environment. Christ changes men, who then change their environment. The world would shape human behavior, but Christ can change human nature. Lasting change truly starts within.
He acknowledges that building a character of total integrity and living the life of love and service that creates such unity isn't easy and isn't a quick fix. It requires patience and perseverance, especially when facing awkwardness or making mistakes.
It's a process. But if you begin with the daily private victory and commit to working from the inside out, the results will surely come. Progress, not perfection.
Despite the passage of time since the book's release, Covey affirms that the 7 habits are more relevant than ever in a rapidly changing world because they are based on timeless and universal principles like fairness, honesty, and respect.
He warns that ignoring these principles can only result in the shipwreck of our lives, but promises that if you will live in alignment with principles, you will prosper, personally and professionally. They're like lighthouses.
He reminds us that effectiveness isn't achieved overnight by simply reading the book. It's an exhilarating, lifelong challenge. It involves consistently following one's conscience and making efforts. Covey even shared that he personally found habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood, the most difficult to live by.
Even for him.
But he worked hard to be more patient and a better listener and believe he made significant progress.
Covey speaks of living life in crescendo, meaning that the most important work you will ever do is always ahead of you. It is never behind you. You should always be expanding and deepening your commitment to that work. Retirement is a false concept.
Keep growing.
You may retire from a job, but never retire from meaningful projects and contributions.
Crescendo is a musical term, meaning to play music with ever greater energy and volume, with strength and striving. Its opposite is diminuendo, to lower the volume, to back off, to play it safe, to become passive, to whimper away your life.
Covey truly believed his best work is ahead of me. He encourages us, no matter what your age or position in life, if you live by the 7 habits, you are never finished contributing. You are always seeking something higher and better. The next fascinating challenge, greater understanding, more intense romance, more meaningful love. Keep striving.
So as you reflect on this deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people, consider this. What one habit, if genuinely embraced, would create the most profound crescendo in your life? And what small step will you take today to begin that journey, starting from the inside out?